Coming up on Network Africa, Russians feared dead after their plane is shot down by paramilitary rapid support forces in Sudan. African leaders arrive Kazan, Russia for a 3-day BRICS summit. Nairobi court to settle Deputy President's dilemma as Rigathi Gachagua alleges attempts on his life. Hello and welcome to the program. Today I am Layo Olarinde, bringing you stories from around the continent. We'll begin with the war in Sudan. There are unconfirmed reports of Russians killed after their plane was shot down by the paramilitary rapid support forces. Russia's embassy in the country says it is investigating reports that a cargo plane with Russian crew was shot down in Darfur, which is a key battleground in the civil war between the Sudanese army and the RSF. Military sources identify the aircraft as a Russian-made Lushin IL-76 that was on a mission to deliver equipment and medicine to the army, the army-held city of El Fasher. Now, on Monday, the RSF claimed to have downed what it called a foreign warplane that had been aiding the Sudanese military. In a statement it released, it said all foreign mercenaries aboard the aircraft were eliminated in the operation. However, the Russian embassy in the capital, Khartoum, says it is coordinating with the Sudanese military-led government to gather more information about the crash and those who were on board. Well, in Kenya, all eyes are on the High Court in Nairobi as it settles the dilemma rocking the seat of the Deputy President this week. It's seen as an unprecedented battle opposing Kenya's President, William Ruto, the Parliament, and also the impeached Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua. Well, last week, the Senate had voted for removal of Mr. Gachagua, who was absent and in hospital, according to his lawyers. His legal counsel, however, denounced the impeachment and rushed to the court. The High Court then issued a conservatory order suspending the impeachment and the appointment of a new DP until Thursday, October 24. This order came moments before the swearing-in ceremony of the aspiring new deputy who was named by President Ruto, Kithure Kindiki. Mr. Kindiki served as the Interior Minister throughout Ruto's term. He had been blamed in part for the violent crackdown on protesters during the historic June-July anti-tax protests. Meanwhile, Mr. Gachagua alleges attempts on his life and also suffering at the hands of his boss, President William Ruto. In his first public statement since Senate voted for his impeachment, Mr. Gachagua recounted what he called 1 year of continual persecution and stress. Now, this was shortly after being discharged from the Karen Hospital in Nairobi. Well, with uncertainties surrounding the Deputy President's seat in Kenya, Kenyans have been reacting to the situation. Activists have criticized President William Ruto's nomination of Kithure Kindiki as Deputy President, citing his role as Interior Minister during the deadly protests earlier this year. Human rights activists in Nairobi expressed dismay over Kindiki's nomination, linking him to the deaths of over 60 people during demonstrations against tax hikes and the cost of living back in July and August.
The appointment of Kindiki Kindube to be our new Deputy President is a sad moment for our country. Today, a lot of us are wearing black because we are mourning, because at the time during the protest he was CS Interior. We have over 61 people who lost their lives and we still have no accountability. We don't know the rogue police who shot them. There's no case, there's no compensation in terms of victims' families. So for us, it's not a good day. It's not a good choice. It basically shows a government that doesn't stand up for accountability, and we will continue to see that in the remainder of their term.
I think had those demonstrations not happened, I doubt if there would have been this effort to remove the deputy president, at least now. Whether the president would have again chosen him to be his running mate in 3 years, that's another issue. But I think, yes, the Gen Z protests, the aftermath of that series of demonstrations and the violence meted out upon them by the police and so on, definitely put a lot of pressure on the president. So it wasn't a surprising time for this to happen, if it was going to happen at all.
Well, joining us now is Vincent Kimosop, a policy and governance expert at the Sovereign Insight in Nairobi, Kenya's capital. Hello, Vincent. Thank you so much for your time on the program. As a policy and governance expert, would you call, the current situation a political crisis in Kenya?
First of all, I want to say thanks for having me. A pleasure to share. I wish I was in I would want to say that you have to appreciate that the ongoing process, there is a legal dimension, there is a political dimension, so you can be able to only contextualize it by ensuring that you put on the right lenses. It is a first of its kind in the country, whereby we are testing certain provisions of our constitution that provides for removal of deputy president by impeachment. So there are areas that are also gray. This will be precedent setting, and that's why it has moved from the legislature, the two houses. Now it is before the court. Even as we are having this discussion, the matter is actually live before court. So depending on how you look at it, you have to contextualize it both legally and politically.
And you've just attested to that. We're seeing a litany of issues on ground, but you've mentioned it's also the first of its kind. Does this mean the Constitution is the problem? Because does the Constitution say anything about this?
Yes, it does. I actually have a copy of the Constitution here with me. So articles 147 of the Constitution talks about the functions of the Deputy President. 148, the swearing in of the Deputy President, and then the provision in the Constitution that's currently being discussed is the vacancy in the office of the Deputy President, Article 149, and that vacancy in the office of the Deputy President can happen in one ground is on physical and mental inability to perform the functions of the Deputy President, and then the second part is by impeachment. So what we are seeing is then the clear removal or the application of the provisions on impeachment, which are provided for in the Constitution under Article 145 of the Constitution. So the Constitution is very clear, and therefore the implementation of this section, there are areas where there are gaps, particularly because there is no a statutory provision that lays out elaborately how the processes, the thresholds. One of the major things that we have seen of late is a lot of challenges of matters even before court, particularly when it comes to issues like public participation. So, so it's a new ground. It's unprecedented for us. And really, I would want to say it's part of the democratic journey for our country, and let's see how this plays out.
Indeed, we wait and see how it plays out. I mean, it's on Thursday that we'll be hearing from the High Court. But, that impeachment was also suspended by the High Court. And last we saw of Mr. Gachagua, he was talking about, attempts on his life and suffering at the hands of his boss. And this was shortly after being discharged from hospital. But where is he at this time?
I saw him in court today. He was part of those who attended the court proceedings. What actually happened is that the court stayed the decision of the Senate, the implementation of the decision, that is, the resolution from the Senate. So, because this is an instrument that is available only to the legislature, removal of office, all of the deputy president by impeachment. So they stayed the resolution, and the matter is being discussed today. And a 3-judge panel is actually currently considering the matter. On the issue of the allegations about his life, of course, as a Kenyan, the health of the president and the deputy are state issues, so we wish them well. They are very significant. So he made the allegations when he left hospital. That is on Sunday. And as I know, is that the DCI, which is the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, has invited him to shed light on the allegations. I don't have the substance now on the progress, but of course, allegations of the assassination of deputy presidents are not to be taken lightly. And we hope that this matter will be resolved as soon as possible, so that there is clarity. But also you have to appreciate the context under which this is happening.
All right, then we'll leave it at that, and wait for the court's decision on Thursday and see how it all pans out. But thank you so much, Vincent Kimosop, policy and governance expert at Sovereign Insight Nairobi. Thank you for your insight.
You're welcome.
Well, African leaders have arrived in Russia to attend this year's BRICS summit, and it's taking place in Kazan. We've seen the president of South Africa, the prime minister of Ethiopia, and the president of Egypt, among over 20 heads of state attending the summit hosted by President Vladimir Putin.
The 16th BRICS summit officially opens in Russia, and the spotlight is on the city of Kazan. The summit, hosted by President Vladimir Putin, witnessed the attendance of more than 20 heads of state in what the Kremlin calls one of the largest-scale foreign policy events ever in Russia. World leaders arriving for the 3-day summit includes Chinese leader Xi Jinping, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, among others. The diplomatic forum, founded 15 years ago by major emerging markets including Brazil, Russia, India, and China, has since expanded to include South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. President Putin says the BRICS group will generate most of the global economic growth in the coming years due to its size and relatively fast growth compared with that of developed Western nations. He hopes to build BRICS countries as a powerful counterweight to the West in global politics and trade. The Russian president also wants other countries to work with it to overhaul the global financial system and end the dominance of the US dollar. The BRICS nation accounts for 45% of the global population. Added together, members' economies are worth more than $28.5 trillion. That's around 28% of the global economy.
We'll take a break now on the program. Still ahead. After much speculation, President Paul Biya returns to Cameroon following a 6-week-long absence that sparked health concerns. Please join us again. Welcome back to the program. Thursday, October 24, is an anticipated day in Mozambique. The full results of the national election held earlier this month are expected this week. Early results show that the ruling party, Frelimo, is set for another win. However, opposition candidates say the poll was rigged. Police presence was evident around the streets of the capital, Maputo, following a national strike on Monday that saw police firing tear gas and bullets, injuring protesters and journalists. The street where the protesters gathered on Monday was buzzing with activity today as shops opened for business, but police stood in corners and drove around the city, monitoring the tension. On Monday, hundreds of protesters had gathered at the scene where two opposition party figures were shot dead over the weekend after the disputed election. Well, Gabon is getting ready to conduct a referendum regarding a proposed new constitution, and it's marking an important move towards restoring a civilian government. On Monday, the final draft of the new constitution project was made public and is expected to be voted on the 16th of November. An inclusive national dialogue is also set to convene, bringing together citizens and civil society groups to be able to allow everyone to suggest reforms for the new constitutional framework. The proposed constitution will provide a structure without a prime minister, and it's featuring a 7-year presidential term that can be renewed once, with only individuals born to Gabonese parents eligible for the presidency. French will continue to be the official language of Gabon, and there may be a proposal for mandatory military service for all citizens. There will be a focus on safeguarding individual liberties and also ensuring the separation of powers to strengthen democracy. At the end of this process, the referendum planned for the 16th of November is to present the draft constitution for public approval. Back here in Nigeria, the Kaduna State Quality Assurance Authority says it will soon go after over 200 unregistered private primary and secondary schools operating illegally across the state, including standardizing fees structures in private schools. The Director General of the authority, Professor Usman Abubakar Zaria, made the disclosure at a one-day education summit.
The Kaduna State Schools Quality Assurance Authority is at the forefront of transforming the education sector in Kaduna State, aligning closely with Governor Obasani's sustained agenda, which prioritizes education as a key driver of human capital development. This education summit is part of the state government's strategic plans to sensitize education stakeholders from public and private schools on the activities of the agency. They are asked to embrace the innovative measures and policies that are being used to revolutionize the Kaduna State educational landscape under the administration of Governor Obasani.
We are all aware that education remains the key aspect of governance under the current administration, and everything that needs to be done is being done to achieve significant milestones in the education sector, being the #1 component of the human capital development agenda of the administration.
Part of the duties of the Kaduna State Schools Quality Assurance Authority is to regulate the academic curriculum and operational standards of public and private schools, and in discharging this mandate, the authority says it has uncovered hundreds of private primary and secondary schools operating illegally in the state for many years.
We register all private schools according to their types and categories. I'm sure labs will understand the language of categories there. And we keep adequate statistical records of all private schools operating in the state, as well as we liaise with relevant agencies to ensure that schools' environment of all registered schools is conducive and has adequate facilities for learning.
Established under the law number 13 of 2017, the Kaduna State Schools Quality Assurance Authority oversees the academic curriculum, fee structure in private schools, in addition to real-time monitoring of general learning environment.
What we are trying to do with the private school sector is we are now regulating how much is being charged. We are now looking at the value of what they are giving vis-a-vis what they are charging. We continue to emphasize the fact that establishing a school must go through the laid down laws. No school is allowed, no private school is allowed to accommodate a student from another center without having to go through the Quality Assurance Authority.
Laptops and other learning materials are distributed to some schools to help them achieve these tasks and improve the standard of teaching and learning.
Taiwan is rejecting South Africa's request to relocate its representative office from Pretoria, the capital, to Johannesburg, the commercial hub. According to Taiwan's foreign ministry, the request to relocate or close the office breaches a 1997 agreement between the two nations, calling it an unreasonable demand from the South African government. Well, this decision reflects Taiwan's ongoing efforts to resist China's attempts to diplomatically isolate the self-governing island. The ministry is emphasizing that the office is Taiwanese property and Taipei has the authority to decide its location and status. The Nigerian Doctors Forum in South Africa, in collaboration with Nigerian and South African nurses, highlights the significant disparities between public and private healthcare. Public facilities are often overcrowded, resulting in long wait times and inadequate patient care. Well, to address these issues, the forum recently organized a medical outreach in Johannesburg, providing free medical services to both Nigerian and South African communities. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samosa, reports.
In an effort to address the pressing healthcare disparities in South Africa, the Nigerian Doctors Forum, in collaboration with Nigerian and South African nurses, recently organized a medical outreach in Johannesburg.
It's an annual program, but apart from the annual program, we still go to different locations. We go to different locations in South Africa here. We go to different provinces. We also engage with different associations in South Africa.
Now in its 12th year, the president of the Nigerian Doctors Forum, South Africa, Dr. Ugu Emeka, says the journey has not been without challenges.
Challenges we have, of course, we are foreigners, we remain foreigners in South Africa, and the issue of foreign nationals vis-a-vis the locals, which we're trying to push so that we integrate ourselves the much we can. In all honesty, we've tried to do this at the Maponya Mall, the biggest mall in Soweto, if not in Johannesburg. We wanted to go there and give free medical services to as many South Africans, as many other nationals that are there, but we are restricted because of laws.
Channels Television spoke to several individuals who received assistance during the outreach.
So this outreach is always very profitable to a lot of both Nigerians and anyone who needs medical attention, because trying to get medication here in South Africa is a bit difficult for some people who can afford, because the economy has been a bit difficult lately.
And coming to the terms in their initiative, I will say is a very good one, because a lot of us here, we all know how expensive to go to private doctors are these days. So this type of initiative is a very good one.
Even locals received medical attention. Their stories highlight the critical need for initiatives like this.
I feel so happy. People here, they were so helpful. I came feeling some pains and I explained to them, and they gave me all the medications for the complaints that I had.
We look forward to seeing more initiatives that promote health equity, not only in South Africa, but on the continent as a whole. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Simos, Channels Television News.
And finally, on the program, Cameroonian President Paul Biya has been seen in public for the first time in 6 weeks, following speculation on his whereabouts and health. State television showed footage of the president's arrival at the airport in Yaoundé on a flight from Switzerland. The last time Biya was seen was on September 8 as he attended the China-Africa Summit in Beijing. Since then, the government has been under immense pressure to prove that the long-serving leader was alive. The government had banned the media from discussing his health. Well, that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.